Hi children, good morning. Today we are going to discuss a new chapter in political science. So I welcome you all for today's class. But before I start this chapter, let me show you some pictures. These are the pictures of Hyderabad city and Delhi Taj Mahal also. These three are designed by some architects. They were designed by some architects. For example, if you take the example of Delhi city, it was designed by Edward Littonis, and Taj Mahal was designed by Ustad Ahmad Lahori, and Hyderabad city was also designed by the Emperor Muhammad Quli Qutub Shah. So you might have wondering that why madam is explaining about the designs of the cities and these monuments. Yes, you got the point. Today we are going to discuss about the chapter called Constitutional Design. Our constitution is also designed by some of our important leaders with great efforts. Let's discuss about them. So let me tell you, before we start this chapter, children, at the end of today's class, you'll be able to learn the need of a constitution in India. First of all, what is the definition of a constitution? The supreme law of a country containing fundamental rules governing the policy and society in a country. So it has some rules. That rules may govern the policies and society in the country. Now, what does this constitution functions? How do it functions? What does it says? The basic rules that the citizens and the government have to follow are called as constitution. So the rules which are set by the constitution for the citizens and the government. So both of them they have to follow and obey the constitution. The constitution is the supreme law of the country. It also determines the rights of citizens and it limits the powers of the government. And how the government should function also determines by the government, by the constitution. Here you can see the Book of Constitution of India and the national emblem and the preamble. It means the introduction of the constitution. Children, you might have wondering that in case if you are wondering what does our constitution do, remember students, there are many countries and every country has a diverse group of people. Democratic or not, every country needs to have a constitution. Any club, cooperative society or political party, they all have to be a constitution. So what does the constitution do? It generates trust and coordination between different kinds of people to live together. You know that India is a country which we are having diverse population. Different languages, it's a linguistic population, different castes, different religion, different kinds of people, all they live in a single roof. So this constitution generates the trust among different people and brings the coordination between them to live in under one single roof. So it also tells that how the government will be formed and who will have the power to take which decisions. And it lays the limits on the powers of the government. It controls the powers of the government also and tells the rights of the citizens. It also expresses the hope of people about creating a good society. So it helps to people to build up a good society. All the countries that have constitution are not necessarily democratic, but all countries that are democratic will have a constitution. I repeat children, all countries that have a constitution are not necessarily democratic, but all countries that are democratic will have a constitution. So, after the War of Independence, Americans gave themselves a constitution. After the revolution, French people also approved democratic constitution. Let us see the India before partition. We were one with the Pakistan, but now we are separated. Let's listen its story. Students, let us know about the India's constitution. India's constitution was also drawn up under very difficult circumstances. The country was born through a partition on the basis of religious differences. At least 10 lakh people were killed on both sides of India and Pakistan in violence. Not only this, the British had left it to the rulers of the princely states to decide whether they wanted to merge with India or with Pakistan or remain independent, because of which the task of merging was very difficult. But there was one big advantage for the makers of the Indian Constitution. Much of our consensus about what a democratic India should look like had evolved during the freedom struggle. It was not only the struggle against the foreign rule, but also a struggle to reunite our country. British gave voting rights to only a few. In 1928, Motilal Nehru and 8 other Congress leaders drafted a constitution for India. These documents were included values which were accepted by all the leaders, like universal adult franchise, right of freedom and equality, and protecting the rights of minorities in the Constitution of Independent India. Our leaders learned from other countries. We have adopted details from colonial laws like Government of India Act 1935, and many of our leaders were inspired by the ideals of French Revolution, practice of parliamentary democracy in Britain, Bill of Rights in the USA. Also, the socialistic revolution in Russia had inspired many Indians to think of shaping a new system based on social and economical equality. However, the best part of the makers were not just imitating but also questioning whether these things will suit India or not. Students, I repeat, our leaders learned from other countries. We have adopted details from colonial laws like Government of India Act 1935. Many of our leaders were inspired by the ideals of French Revolution, practice of parliamentary democracy in Britain, and Bill of Rights in the US. The socialist revolution in Russia had inspired many Indians to think of shaping a system based on social and economical equality. However, the best part of the makers were not just imitating but also questioning whether these things will suit India or not. Now, the important thing is to know who were the makers of Indian Constitution. A group of assembly of elected representatives draft the documents for constitution. This assembly of elected representatives is called Constituent Assembly. In July 1946, the elections to the Constituent Assembly were held. In the same year, after 5 months in December, its first meeting was held. However, in 1947 partition, not only the country but the Constituent Assembly was also divided into India and Pakistan. Many countries of the world had to rewrite their constitution because either it exists only as a piece of paper or the rules were not acceptable to all the social groups. But this was not the case of independent India. The assembly that wrote Indian Constitution had 299 members who were elected by the provincial legislatures. The assembly was mostly dominated by the Indian National Congress that led freedom struggle. There was no universal adult franchise at that time. But even if there was, its composition would not have been very different. In the makers of the Constitution, Mahatma Gandhi was not a member, but he had his own vision of what he wanted the Constitution to do. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar played a key role in the making of Constitution. He often bitterly criticized Mahatma Gandhi for his vision. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, with the drafting committee, had prepared a draft. When printed, there were several rounds of discussions. More than 200 amendments were considered. They studied the draft for 114 days over 3 years. Every document, every word spoken has been recorded and preserved these records. These are called Constituent Assembly debates. So these debates are 12 bulky volumes. The Constitution of India has faced many problems while making the Indian Constitution. The India was huge and diverse country. The country was divided on the basis of religions differences. The merger of the princely states with India or Pakistan or remain independent was difficult to decide. The future of the country was not seen, not much secure to make constitution. These were the problems faced by the constitution makers while framing the constitution. So these are the members of the Constituent Assembly which you can see in this picture. So these are the women who participated in the drafting committee while framing the Indian Constitution. These are the members who framed the Constitution and had a first meeting in 1946. And he is the Babu Rajendra Prasad, who is signing on the Indian Constitution. Thank you, children. Have a nice day.